Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Catherine Grill, the CEO and co-founder of Neolth. Really excited to be back here today for another Neolth Ask the Experts live stream event with our very own Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Claire Wheeler. Today, we are going to be talking about managing holiday stress, which is what you all voted for in our community section. So as Thanksgiving is coming up, Christmas, lots of other holidays as well, we thought this might be a great time to connect to talk about what is holiday stress, help you recognize some different triggers that might be there, and then give a couple tips on how to manage holiday stress. So thank you, Dr. Wheeler, for being here with us today. I was wondering if maybe you could kick us off by talking about what is holiday stress and what are some of the different types of holiday stress that people might feel. And we'll get started in just a second with Dr. Wheeler when we can hear your audio. Thanks so much for being
Okay.
here.
Hello. It's nice to be here, and I'm happy to be talking about this topic because it's important, especially for young people. I think that there are additional and unique burdens faced by young adults around the holidays that maybe some of us older people and little kids don't experience. So, holiday stress is kind of a compound form of stress because it happens during the winter and it happens about a month or so. It starts usually right around daylight savings time. The change, because all of a sudden our dark to light relationship changes. So our biology and our neurology change with the shortening days and less sunshine and additional stressors on students like the end of term and finals and projects that are due. So everything kind of comes together at this time of year to create various types of stress all happening at the same time. So it's really important to really keep in mind all the different things that are happening and to take a moment to think about how each one of them might be affecting you.
Thanks, Dr. Wheeler. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, daylight savings and the change of just the dark to light cycle. I know it always kind of messes me up in my sleep, which is really important for stress. And I was just kind of thinking this through because a lot of young people and students have been asking us, feeling a lot of stress. And I think we hear about, finals and end of term, but there are other things too, like that I was thinking through, like traveling. Some people just don't like to travel. Some people don't like to be outside of their home or outside of their routine, which I think can be a trigger. Thinking about relationship stress, there are like two types that I think of, as coming up around the holidays, but there might be some stress around togetherness and being with friends and family that you might not necessarily want to be spending so much time with, or sometimes you just need a little bit of alone time and you can't get that. And then there's also the other component around maybe loneliness and not having some of the relationships in your life or people in your life, if you've lost them who you want to be there. Then there's this like financial stress as well. I think the holidays can put on a lot of pressure financially and expectations to go out, to go to certain parties, to buy presents. And I think that can be stressful. So those are some of the things that I'm thinking about, this financial stress, this relationship and kind of social stress. And even like you mentioned, this daylight savings and how it affects our biology. So I was wondering if you could maybe dive deeper into some of those different types of stress or triggers and how people might be able to recognize them.
Definitely. So I think, yeah, there are two general, in addition to the biological stress, and I would also add being indoors, crowding, and then the increased likelihood of getting a cold or a flu or, God forbid, COVID. So there's all that biological stuff. And I also think about basically two areas. One of them is social stressors, and the other one is expectations. And social stressors are the stressors that are put upon us by other people and also by social norms. Everybody who grew up in a family probably has traditions around the holidays, and then there are powerful expectations that we maintain them or break them, or whatever it is, whatever, wherever we're going with that, there's pressure to conform to them, and sometimes they don't really work, or they aren't that meaningful anymore, and change is called for, but there can be resistance to that. And so one of the things that I think really helps with that is just simple, open communication about expectations and social pressure. And that includes setting boundaries. For young people, I think and I know this because I was young once, and also I have 3 kids in grad school and college, and they are coming home for the holidays. And they have their own agendas for while they're at home. But as their mom, I might want them to spend the whole time hanging out with me. And I know that's not really probably what they want. So it's really important for my kids and me to have a conversation ahead of time and say, here's what I would love to have, here's what you need, and here's how we're going to live together. It's really tempting sometimes when you go home for the holidays to sort of regress, go back to patterns from childhood that might not be serving you anymore. So that's another thing to pay attention to. Another thing that a lot of high school and college students might be dealing with right now is expectations and boundaries around a romantic relationship, or either a new or an older romantic or intimate connection you might have. There's pressure there too. Where are you going to spend the holidays? Are you getting gifts? All of that. And then of course, leading up to the ultimate, which is New Year's Eve, right? There's a lot of pressure put on that. So again, being aware of your own boundaries and what you want to get out of the holiday season, and being comfortable being able to ask for or even insist upon some of those boundaries and needs being met, while also being willing to compromise with what other people need, is a good approach. As far as finances go, definitely right now, of course, whether or not this huge inflation issue that people are talking about is real or not, we know that gas prices are a little higher and everything's a little more expensive. So this might be a year to think about a secret Santa for the family, or handmade gifts only, or reused gift, or have a regifting, tradition beginning in your family. But really, again, communication and boundaries are key to being, and also being proactive and thinking ahead. Think about last year. What were the highs and lows of last year, and maybe the year before? Because we're still in a similar situation with the pandemic and everything else. And so, this is a whole new world that we're living in. And again, be proactive and look back and find out what really works and doesn't work for you.
That's some great advice. I think one of the things that stuck with me was around the boundaries. I think that can be really hard for young people, but for really everyone, learning how to say no. And like you said, there's so many expectations and all this pressure around what you need to do, what you should do around this season. And there are, different parties. You have to get new outfits, new presents. Maybe you have to be cooking or cleaning, or maybe there's really just a lot around like going out and spending time with people when you really want some time by yourself. So I think that's something that young people in particular have told me that they've been struggling with. It's like, well, I know I should say no, but how do I say no? So do you have any advice for how to say no, different words that you can use to maybe soften it or make it not seem so harsh, instead of just texting someone back, thanks? Is there a little bit more that they could say? I don't think we can hear you.
Goodness gracious. I need one of those things that automatically unmutes me when I start talking. Okay. I have a lifelong relationship with the word should. And what I often do when I'm shoulding myself is I shift that to a could or a would. So, I should go to this party. Well, I could go to this party, but I could do something else. And then I often find helpful is would. I would do it if, like, under what circumstances would this work for you? And if there really aren't any, or if they aren't really your own priorities, again, it's a sign that maybe you need not do this. But again, yes, tact and diplomacy are hard learned skills in life. And I think first of all, it's important to stick with I statements. This is what I need, or I'm really looking forward to this. And instead of saying, well, you always insist upon this, or, you all really this or that, right? I statements keep you firmly placed in your own needs while still being open and receptive to others. Another thing that I learned a while back from actually my Pilates instructor who does improv, she said for her, a lot of times interacting and getting what she wants from people, it uses a technique from improv called yes and. So when someone asks you to do something or brings up a topic, yes and, not yes but or no but yes, that might be an interesting idea, or yes, that might have worked in the past. And here's how I would like to see maybe we change it up a little bit. Or yes, everybody's going to that party and I would prefer to go for half an hour and do something else. But what you're doing really by just simply sort of adopting these simple strategies is you're not being immediately oppositional, because parents and other older adults are going to see that and think, they're just being oppositional. But to kind of engage in the conversation as an equal in the conversation, because you're an adult now, right? Yes, and let's think about this. Or yes, I hear what you're saying, and I'd like to look at it from another perspective. Those are good ways to start dipping your toe into assertiveness and getting what you need.
Totally. What great advice. So those yes and statements, and then also I statements. So discussing, not what the other person is doing, but how you feel can be really helpful when you're setting boundaries and saying no. And then the other thing, Dr. Wheeler, that you had mentioned that was kind of sticking with me was some of that financial pressure, and really, I think just the pressure in general, like these social norms. And I feel, especially with young people, like we get a lot of pressure from social media. If we think about Instagram, for example, and everybody's out and they're looking really nice, and maybe they're partying or they've decorated their house really nice, or Pinterest is another one that I use, and like how everybody looks or how their house looks or what they're doing. And it just feels like, again, these should, like, this is what everyone must be doing because it's on social media. This is what I should be doing. And there's this real pressure for perfectionism in a lot of areas of your life that can then bleed over into that financial or social pressure. So I'm wondering what you think around avoiding social media around the holidays, if you have any tips or advice around that.
Yes. It's always interesting talking with people, in their 20s and younger about avoiding social media or not using it, because it's almost an ask that's going to get a no. But indeed, I think the first step is to maybe start paying more attention to how you feel after you've spent some time on social media looking at other people's perfect holidays. I have a timer on my phone, so after an hour of Twitter, I'm done. I get a reminder and I can choose whether or not to continue, but that's an intention I set for myself. So tricks like that are really helpful. Another thing I think that can help be an antidote to all of that superficial sort of social competition is to really sit with yourself, take some time and ask yourself, what is the meaning of the holidays in the first place? What does it mean to you? In ancient times, it was a time to reassure each other that things were going to be okay, right? All of our winter festivals involve light, bringing light into a dark time of the year, expressing hope, expressing fellowship and communion with other human beings and animals, all sentient beings. So if you sort of start to pull away from the surface of all of this and start to go deeper and think about what it means to you, whatever holiday it is you're celebrating now, and to get back to that essential drive that we all have, which is to find hope and to find light in times of darkness. And we certainly are, literally and figuratively, in a time of darkness right now.
Wow, I don't know that I can say much more to add on to that. I think that's really a fantastic kind of close to this talk, and just thinking about, taking a step back, reframing, and finding what the holidays mean for you, and focusing on your priority instead of what other people or what society is telling you should be your priority. So thank you, Dr. Wheeler. We learned a couple things today around setting boundaries, using yes and statements, or I statements to set those boundaries and say no. Also around social media, I love that tip around maybe putting on a timer. I only spending this much time a day on social media, or even doing a self check-in, before and after you use, Instagram, for example. Scale of 1 to 5. What's my stress right now? What's my self-esteem? Whatever that is, what's my anxiety? And just check in with yourself and start to notice how these things might be affecting you. So thank you for those really great tips, Dr. Wheeler. Just wanted to give you a chance to, say any kind of closing words before we finish the talk.
I unmuted myself to say that to everyone who's watching this, I hope that you do have a season of winter that is marked by light and hope and togetherness with the people you care about.
Light, hope, and togetherness. What a great way to just kind of think about having these words or these phrases to go into the holiday season. So thanks everyone for joining us. This was one of our Ask the Experts talks on Neil, the live stream event. You can vote for the topic of our next event coming up in December directly in the community section. We'll put up a new poll later today. So just go to the community section. You can vote anonymously, and that's how we decide what to talk about in these events. If you missed a live stream event, you can actually go into our events and look at past recordings. So this one, you can watch the talk over again if you want. There are other great events like our movement class that we had recently with Allison Stoner. You can go into past events and watch that. So just keep it in mind. You can watch things live. You can also rewatch them. But thank you all for joining us. We hope you have a holiday season filled with a lot of light and a lot of hope and togetherness. And we'll see you next time for our Ask the Experts talk. Thanks, everyone.